Hi and welcome to this special edition of my driving test videos where I'm going to look at some of the myths of the driving test. There's a load of rubbish out there. People say you can do this, you can't do that, you fail for this, you fail for that. What's true and what isn't true? Well, I'm going to separate the fact from the fiction. So I'm here at King's Heath Test Centre. If you watch my other videos you might ask, well, where is the test centre? Because a lot of people say it looks like you're parked on the main road. Well, we are. Test centres are often put in really weird places, so they're just like little old buildings. Some of them are big purpose-built test centres, but this one is it's just an old shop up the road. Now, the reason I've come here today is that one of the most common questions people ask about the test is, what car do I do my test in? Now, I never understand why people ask that, because to me it's obvious you do your test in this car. But loads of people think that there are cars at the test centre. There aren't. There's no such thing as a test centre car. The DSA who did the test struggled to survive as it is. The driving test is not cheap, it's about £62, but there's no way they could afford to run a whole fleet of cars and insure them and tax them and fuel them up. There is no such thing as a test car. So I'm going to drive now and show you what I mean. Loads of people seem to think that there are cars in the test centre. There aren't. I don't know why people think that. So we're coming up now to King's Heath Test Centre. I'm going to show you that there are no cars there, just to prove that there is no such thing. So the building is that building there on the right. It's one of those. It's a little shop. It used to be an old greengrocer's, I think. So as I go down the alleyway. So this is the back of the test centre. There are no test cars, as you can see. But these are not test cars, these are just people's cars that have parked here. It looks a bit dodgy, doesn't it? You wouldn't really want to leave your car parked here. But there are no test cars at all. And if I go around the front just to prove it, because a lot of people turn up for a test thinking that there are going to be loads of cars with roof signs on outside the test centre. Yeah, but there's not. This is where the test centre is. This is the actual parking space. There are no test cars here at all. The centre's on the left there. Nowhere to park as usual. There's no test cars, no such thing. So that rumour is a load of rubbish. People who say that there are cars that you do your testing, it's not true. So I did have a pupil once who he booked a test and he sent me an email and he said, I know you can't do this test because you're not free on that day, I know you told me that, but it doesn't matter, I'm going to go to the centre and use one of the test cars. And I said to him, good luck on that, because there's no such thing. And he didn't believe me, and he turned up for his test and he said to an examiner, I need to use your car for the test. And the examiner said, I'm sorry, we haven't got any cars. So yeah, no such thing. So the next one that we're going to look at is the steering. There's this myth about the driving test and driving lessons. I'm going to pull up in a bit and I'll talk to you about this. If you watch how I steer now, this is the way you could do it, passing it through your hands. That's fine. But the thing is, there's this whole myth that's grown up, and I'm going to pull over and tell you about it. People say you mustn't cross your hands on the wheel or you fail. It's rubbish. You don't fail for crossing your hands, it doesn't make any difference. Now, of course, you don't want to cross your hands on the wheel, and it's a lot better if you don't, but you don't fail the test for doing it. It's one of these things that if you watch films, people always steer, like this, and they say, oh, don't cross your hands, keep your hands on each side of the wheel. And it's just a complete myth. If you're on a test and you steer like that, you don't fail, you don't get marked down, it doesn't make any difference at all. You could put your hand in the wheel like that, it doesn't matter, it makes no difference. People panic about steering the proper way. You don't have to. Do you know the reason why you should pull push? Because the proper way of steering is what I call pull push, where you pull the wheel down with one hand and push it up with the other. But if you don't know, I'll tell you in a bit. It's something hardly anyone knows, even instructors don't know this. But let's go for a drive and just see how bad it is if I cross my hands on the wheel. So, right, let's go. So imagine now I'm on my driving test. I've just come out of the centre. And I'm just going to go to the end of the road. hope this lorry's not going to get in the way, because I was going to start from that road there and that lorry was blocking the whole road. So if I steer like that, it's okay. It doesn't make any difference. So I'll get to the end of the road and I'm going to go end of the road right. Now I'm going to try and steer incorrectly, what people say is incorrectly. So let's give this a go. Because I'm so used to steering the sort of proper pull-push method, I find it quite hard to cross my hands because I just can't do it without really concentrating on it. But if I try and steer wrong like that, what difference does it make? It doesn't matter if you cross your hands on the wheel. Don't panic about it. So many people go around and then they crash into curbs just because they're trying not to cross their hands. Now you don't want to cross your hands, and it's better if you don't. But again, the reason why, I shall explain now. The reason why it's better, which not many people know, is when you do your driving test, this licence you're getting is not just for a car. It covers you for other things, such as driving lorries and vans and all kinds of different things. If you get in those vehicles and you try and cross your hands, you'll find that you can't, because in some of them the steering wheel is kind of flat. It's kind of like this, flat across instead of being upright. If you try and cross your hands on those wheels, you can't, because you physically can't do it. But that's the only reason why it's better to pull push. So yeah, to be clear, you don't fail your test for crossing your hands. Don't worry about it. You don't want to, but don't worry about it. So the next thing we're going to look at, I've got a list down here, I'm just looking at this list. The next one is when people say, is the driving test fixed? The simple answer, no, it's not fixed. I'm going to drive you to a place now where I can demonstrate that. And I'm going to tell you what happened on the test once and how stupid it is when people say that the test is fixed, because it's not. People have all these theories about they have a quota and they have to pass so many a day and they have to fail so many a day, and there's all these conspiracy theories about the government are trying to keep you off the road and they don't want you having a car. It's absolute rubbish. There's no conspiracy theory, there's no pass rate, there's no number they have to pass. It's stupid. So I'm just going to drive to this area and I'll give you an example of that. There is one thing on the way I will tell you though. This used to be true, I don't know if it still is, but I think, if I remember, I read this in a driving instructors magazine, and the DSA themselves admitted it was true. What used to happen is that each test centre has their own pass rate, which is how many people are passing there, not a figure that they're given to pass. So it may be, for example, that at King's Heath it was about 31%, and the test centre down the road it was about 31.2%. The next test centre it was something like 30.9%, and people said, well, how come they're all so similar? What used to happen, apparently, is that the examiners were told that that's the average for the centre, and if they pass or fail 10% more or less than that figure, there might be something wrong with the way they're marking, because if you're passing too many people, you might be being too lenient, and if you're failing too many people, you might be being too strict. So again, this is only hearsay, but what used to apparently happen is if the examiner's figure went 10% above or below the test centre's figure, then they would have an inspection done where an examiner would sit in the back of the car and watch them examining to make sure that they were doing it properly. Now of course they didn't really want that, so what apparently happened is they used to pass or fail people to keep their figures in the right kind of zone. So it's not that the test is fixed, it's not that they have to pass so many a day, it's simply that that is allegedly what they used to do. The biggest problem with that for me is not that they're failing people who should pass, but think about it the other way around, they're passing people who should fail. Now I haven't seen any evidence of this for years, I don't think it happens, but there was one test I did back in 2005, and I had this girl who was on the way to a test, and she nearly crashed on the way to a test. She nearly drove straight in the back of a milk float, and then down the road she did it again and did it again, and she said to me, I'm not going to pass, am I? And I said, well look, you're probably not going to pass, but give it a go because you're not that bad. She went on a test and she passed, And she said to me herself, I should never have passed that test, and we both said you shouldn't have passed, but she did. And 3 weeks after passing, she went and drove in the back of a car for real. Now I would say that's not my fault, that was the examiner's fault for passing her through a test. She clearly shouldn't have passed. She even said to the examiner at the end, I shouldn't have passed that. And he said, what do you mean? And she said, I can tell my driving's not good enough, I shouldn't have passed. Why he passed her, I don't know. I've got my own theory about that, but I don't know. So yeah, people say there are pass rates. There aren't pass rates, but there are times when in the past that's the way that they used to do it apparently. The one thing I want to show you now is how stupid it is when people say that the test is fixed. So in a moment there's a road here. If you're on here on a test, the examiner would not speak. Where do you have to go? Left. See that sign said left only. Now there used to be a sign in front here saying left only, but it's gone now. But the sign clearly does say left only, and it's obvious it's left only because looking to the right, all the cars are coming down the same way, and they're all facing this way. I had a people years back who got to that junction, and the examiner hadn't said where to go because they don't need to. You can only go left, and the people went to go right, and the examiner of course braked and said you need to go the other way. And at the end of that test, the people, all he kept saying was, it's fixed, it's fixed. They ripped me off, it's all a quota system. And he wouldn't accept that the reason he'd failed. See that one in front of you there, one way? Let's just see what's happening with his phone. Yeah, he kept saying, it's all rigged, it's all fixed, they've ripped me off, it's all a quota system. And the examiner said to him, it's not fixed, you went the wrong way down a one-way road. And he wouldn't have it, he just kept saying, no, it's fixed. That just shows how stupid it is. When people say the test is fixed, it's not. If you're good enough, you do pass. If you're not good enough, you don't. So, it's not fixed, that's that myth, gone. It's rubbish. The next one I was going to talk about was the next one. Speeding. People say if you go 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, you fail. No, you don't. The reason being, where the examiners are, in this car especially, you can't even see the speedo. You have got absolutely no idea how fast the car's going. You can tell roughly. Now if you look on the left of the screen, there is a speedo on the left where it says 0, that green 0 halfway up the screen. But you don't have to have that plugged in by law. That's only there for me on lessons so I can see what people are doing. So if you go 1 or 2 miles an hour over the speed limit, you shouldn't speed, of course don't speed. I hate speeding, as you know if you watch my other videos, but you're not going to fail for it. What you do fail for is if you suddenly do something stupid like slam the brake on and slow right down. That's more dangerous. So let me give you an example. I had a people once going down this road, and what's the speed on this road? It's a dual carriageway. It's 30. A lot of people think it's 40, and I think my people thought it was 40, but it's not. And he was doing about, I was in the back of the car and I could see the speedo, he was doing about 37. And at the end of the test, he got back and he kind of went, oh, and he was like, he knew he hadn't passed. And the examiner said, I'm pleased to say that you've passed. And he said, what? But I was speeding. And he said, oh, were you? I didn't notice. So yeah, don't worry about speeding. Don't speed, of course. It's illegal speeding. You shouldn't do it. But if you go 1 or 2 miles an hour over the speed limit, don't slam the brake on until it screeches to a halt. Most of the time, the examiner can't even see the speedo. Remember that by law, it's up to you if you speed, not the examiner. If you get caught, it's your fault, not theirs. You're the one that's going to get the points in the fine, not them. So yeah, don't worry so much about going 1 or 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. Yeah, so for now that's all I've got to say. Just a short video, really short video there, just with a few things that people say about the driving test. So I'm just going to drive back home now. If there are any other questions you've got about the test, if you want to see anything else about myths or about my friend said this, then let me know. In fact, I'll tell you a few examples before I finish of what people have said to me. I had a people only a few weeks ago say this and I couldn't quite understand what she was talking about. She said to me, is it true that my friend told me that, I'm just going to give out his car, she said to me that her friend had told her, if if you overtake a bike on a test, you fail instantly. And I said to her, why would you fail for overtaking a bike? I don't understand the logic there. What she probably means is a friend probably went past the bike on her test, probably nearly knocked him off. That's why she failed. You don't fail for overtaking a bike. So yeah, that's one of the kind of things people say that isn't true at all. The last thing I'll tell you before I go is the most common thing people do fail tests on is simply going too slow. People have this thing about you must go slow, you must be careful, you must be all, don't cross your hands on the wheel like I mentioned before. What they want to see is you being nice and brisk. So for example, turning to this road, I'm looking around, is there anyone around? No, off I go. That's how you've got to drive, not slow. You shouldn't be slowing down, stopping, crawling, creeping everywhere. That's how it should be. So yeah, that's the end of this video, just a short video for today. But if you've got any questions, I'll just pull up over here. If you've got any questions about the test that you want to ask me, if you want to know is this true, my friend said this, whatever, then get in touch, let me know. My email address is tess@firstdrive.com, and as usual you can go on my website firstdrive.com, loads of information on there, so get in touch, let me know what you think.